Hi, I just wanted to do a quick lesson in how the switch scanning works in Flip Keyboard. To do this, you will need a switch interface. If you're doing one switch scanning, you need a switch interface that you can set up to send an enter key. And if you're doing two switch scanning, you need tab for the move key and enter for the select key or the chooser key. Okay, so for it to work, you need to go into settings and scroll down towards the bottom, and you've got the various accessibility settings built into the app. The app is compatible with most accessibility settings in operating systems or browsers as well. So I can turn on single switch scanning or two switch scanning. I'm going to start with single switch scanning in linear, and I can, if I want to, change the speed, which I am going to do. I'm going to bring it down to 1 second. For the scanning speed, I can change the colour of the highlight, the thickness of it. I can add an auditory scan cue where it's going to speak out as it visually scans, and I can choose whether or not it scans the keyboard controls above the writing window. And then I go back to keyboard, and now the scan has already started. So it's moving along at a speed of 1 second. And when it gets to the item I want to use, I just hit the enter key or the switch that's set up to be the enter key to choose it. There we go. So I changed the keyboard back a page, and now I can change it forward a page. I'm sure if you're working with someone who does this, you know you keep in your eyesight or your target, you just keep looking at the key you're aiming to press, and then you hit the switch when it's highlighted rather than attempting to follow the scan. So I'm going to do D, D, A, B. And each time you choose something, anything, I'll do space now, it is going to revert back to the first of the letter keys to start the scan again. Now I can go forward a page and choose an H, E. I can press Shift and go to uppercase. There is an optional setting which I've got turned on where it will also scan the controls above the writing space. So these controls let me add a picture to write about. They will speak the contents of the writing space. They'll save it or they'll clear it. So if I wanted to speak it, I hit the switch when that is highlighted and it's back to the alphabet again. I haven't included settings, instructions and about in the switch scanning, and I can go into settings and turn off the keyboard controls being scanned. Now the scan will be a little bit simpler. It only scans the letters and the controls under the letters. So some of those controls under the letters can also be turned off if you don't think they're relevant. So I can go into settings and I can turn off the return key. I can turn off the speak button above, which isn't really an issue at this point, but I can turn off the return key. I can also just set the keyboard to either just uppercase or just lowercase, and then Shift will disappear. So now I have a simpler array. Really all I can do is scan 4 letters and scan forward through the alphabet. G, choose a letter, insert a space, and that's all the array is doing. So that's at its simplest kind of level. I can also change the number of letters in that arrangement. So it's on 4 at the moment. I could bring it down to 3, or I can increase it to something like 6, which I've just done. And now it's scanning more letters. If I go back to the settings and turn on the audio scan cue, A, B, C, D, D, A, B, C, D, E, F. Previous page, A, B, A, G. So that's the auditory scan working. D. Okay, now I'm going to show you the two switch scanning. So as soon as I turn that on, single switch scanning turns off. And now I can use tab and enter. Whoops, I've just reset to default, which was not a good thing to do, but that's okay. I'll turn two switch scanning on and everything will be back to default. So we've got all the buttons down the bottom, etc. So now I'm on two switch scanning. I press tab to move and I press enter to choose. X. C. C, etc. So it's tab to move around the screen and enter to choose a letter. Again, I can go back into settings and I can turn scan keyboard controls on. So now, as well as scanning the letters, it will come up and scan those buttons above the writing window. Okay, I'm sure that, again, if you're working with students who need scanning, you're aware that two switch scanning is actually easier for many students because it doesn't have the timing controls of one switch scanning. I understand it can be tricky to find two switch positions. And sometimes working on one seems easier, but for them to access a program like this, two switch scanning is easier for many. In terms of the access, it's just finding the second switch position that can be really tricky. As well as that, the linear scanning that I've just shown you, we also have an option for row column, and this exists in both one switch scanning and two switch scanning. So if I go into the settings and choose row column scanning, I'm going to go back to single switch scanning again. Okay. So now it automatically highlights a row at a time. I select enter to hit the row, and if I'm aiming for C, I wait for it to move along to C and I choose the letter. And then it's going to start scanning the row again. If I wanted to speak, I'd press enter when speak is highlighted. FDBXCCDC. And again. Okay, so that's row column scanning. So it lets the student access some of the buttons a little faster and is often considered to be a quicker way to get to buttons. Of course, it is, again, it involves timing when it's in one switch mode. If I go to the settings and I turn on two switch scanning and I'm going to leave it in row column, I'll just change to a different highlight and a different thickness just so you can see what that looks like. So now we have a purple line instead of yellow and it's a lot thicker. And now I'm going to use tab to move around. G, and enter to select as before. So that option is giving me faster access to some of the buttons. And I think that's about it. So they're the scanning features that are inbuilt into Flip Keyboard. They're not perfect. I recognise that. I'm doing the programming myself and learning as I'm going. So if you have any suggestions or questions, please let me know. Thanks.